Okay, we are live.
We are live. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Barb Howe. I am a member of the Community Coalition for Social Justice. We are very pleased to be working with the League of Women Voters and the NAACP to sponsor this forum tonight. And we are recording it. If you wish to see it in the future, you will be able to go to lwvmorgantown.org/YouTube. So here are our sponsors. Again, the League of Women Voters is the major sponsor of this. They're the ones responsible for all the technical aspects. Okay. Next. There we go. All right, here's some information for you about registering to vote. Remember, the deadline to register is April 19th. The election is May 10th. Early voting is April 27th to May 7th. There are several locations: Mason-Dixon Park on Buckeye Road in Core, the VFW post at 340 Holland Avenue in Westover, Mountaineer Mall for the old Goodwill store, for those who remember that, but it will have a great big banner outside saying vote here or something like that. And the former Earth Dodge dealership at 2000 Mid-Atlantic Drive. The hours for early voting are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day except Sunday. You also can vote. Doesn't matter where you live, you can go to any place to early vote. If you wish an absentee ballot, you may request it until May 4th, returning it postmarked by Election Day, May 10th, and you can apply at govotewv.com or hand deliver it to the clerk no later than May 9th. Absentee ballots are not being sent out automatically, or absentee ballot requests forms like was done during the pandemic. That is not happening. If you want a ballot that's an absentee ballot, you must apply for it. And then check a reason why you want it. All right. Next. Here's information for the Mon County Clerk at the county courthouse or monongaliacountyclerk.com, or the West Virginia Secretary of State, apps.sos.wv.gov. The phone number for the Secretary of State is 304-558-6000. If you do not know where to vote on Election Day, because there are some changes that have been made with redistricting and after the 2020 census, you may go to the county clerk's office or call the county clerk at 304-291-7230. Next. All right, tonight we're focusing on the Board of Education election. This is the election. There is no primary for the Board of Education election. The people that you vote for this spring are the people that will take office, unlike other elections for House of Delegates or State Senate or something. You may vote for up to 3 candidates, 1, 2, or 3. That's your choice. But you can only vote for 2 candidates in the same district, 2 from the Central District and 1 from the Western District, or 2 from the Western District and 1 from the Central District. It does not matter where you live, you can vote for these candidates. It's where they live, not where you live. But again, it is the final election. There's no primary for this. These are the people that will take office. The candidates from the Central District are Daniel Berry and Jennifer Hagerty. The candidates from the Western District are Michael Kelly, Christy Moats, and Brandon Myers. And we will hear tonight from Jennifer Hagerty and from Michael Kelly. And if Christy Myers appears, we will hear from Christy Myers. The format is each one will be given 3 minutes to make an introductory statement. Then we will have questions for 2 minutes each candidate, and each candidate will then have a closing statement for 3 minutes. All right, so we have on the ballot in May, there will be 5 candidates, Daniel Berry and Jennifer Hagerty from the Central District, Michael Kelly, Christy Moats, and Brandon Myers from the Western District. Mr. Berry is not able to be here tonight and has sent a statement that I will read after Ms. Hagerty and Mr. Kelly introduce themselves. Ms. Moats was supposed to be here and I have not seen her appear yet. Mr. Myers is unable to be here and chose not to send a statement. So we will now get on to the business of the forum, and each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce himself or herself. And we will start with you, Jennifer Hagerty. So if you would please introduce yourself for Mr. Kelly and Ms. Hagerty. There will be a slide that pops up that says you have 30 seconds, and then a slide that says you have 15 seconds, and then a slide that says time's up. So you can watch for those. All right, go ahead, Ms. Hagerty.
Okay, hello. My name is Jennifer Hagerty. I have 2 daughters who are successfully raised in Mon County schools. They're adults now. They were active at the time and successful in academics and athletics and the arts, involved in anything they could get into. I now currently work as a realtor in Morgantown. I work for J.S. Walker. I serve as the director of the Morgantown Board of Realtors. I'm on the Morgantown Housing Advisory Committee. I'm also a new member of the Cheat Lake Rotary, which I'm really excited about. Prior to becoming a realtor, I spent 22 years working in public education. I have a bachelor's degree from WVU in elementary education and a master's degree in educational leadership. I've worked as a teacher, a technology integration specialist, an academic coach, an elementary and middle school assistant principal. 18 years of my education-related experience has been in Mon County schools. I've had the pleasure of working in 9 different schools in Mon County throughout my career, and I have experience at the elementary, middle, and high school level. So with this experience, I feel like I bring a unique perspective to the Board of Education candidacy. As a board member, I can relate to and reflect from the perspective of a parent, a teacher, an administrator, a community member. I know the things that happen in the schools that are fantastic, and I also am aware of the challenges that present in areas that could be improved on. I can look at the scenarios that would present themselves, and as we all know, every day is different, but I can look at them from a perspective of both a outsider looking in and an insider looking out. I'm passionate about teaching and learning, and I know I have much to give to ensure that the students of Mon County are provided the best possible education. All that I could really promise is that I'll show up prepared, I'll work hard, I'll listen to understand, I'll try my best to make all of my decisions based on what's best for students, always. I'm running for Board of Education so that I can continue to support Mon County students and help ensure that our youth is afforded the best education, services, resources, and support possible.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Kelly, if you'll introduce yourself and tell us why you feel qualified to run for re-election for the Board of Education.
My name is Michael Kelly. My wife is Marjorie. We have 3 grown children that were all educated here in Mon County. We have 3 grandchildren that are currently in the Mon County schools. I'm a University High alum. I was first appointed to the board in 2005 and have previously served as vice president. I also represent the Board of Education on the Morgantown-Monongalia Metropolitan Planning Organization, and that's a transportation planning venue. And I have twice served that as chair, and I've been on it since its inception in 2003. And I've served as the chairman twice, and I'm currently the vice chairman. Also, I guess in the educational side of it, I'm very strong on the arts and the band, the music programs, and such. She had mentioned Rotary, and I had a longtime member of the Westover Rotary and served as its president, actually at the turn of the century, which sounds like a long time ago. But yes, I've been on the board, and I guess people can look at my track record and decide whether they liked it or don't like it or whatever. But I'm very open to the people. I get lots of emails, lots of telephone calls, and I think that's very important to be able to answer them when they do contact you. And in this previous 2 years, 18 months, it seems like we've not been able to focus too much on education. There's been so many other things that have taken our time to kind of work our way through all these issues. So with that, I love since the beginning that I've been on the board, we've been building buildings and replacing old schools, and I want to continue to do that. And I don't know if you've heard about the Renaissance School, and I think that's a very exciting project, and I'm hoping that we can create that, because I like to keep all of our students, if they want to go to college, fine. If they want to do career tech, it keeps them all, something available for all of them. And I thank you for this opportunity on this forum too.
All right, thank you. I want to read the statement that Mr. Berry provided for us. Mr. Berry has taught history, government, and world human geography in Mon County since 1986. He's taught at South Middle School, University High, and Morgantown High. He's currently Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment for Advanced Placement Human Geography at the College Entrance and Examination Board. Under mission, he says, having taught for 33 years in Monongalia County, I will always put students first. Monongalia County has some of the highest performing schools in the state, and by using many assets already in place, it is my mission to make our county schools among the best in the nation. On his position statements, he says, under continued excellence, and these are in the order that he saw as most important. One of my main goals is not just maintain the status quo, but instead help our schools become among the best in the country. Our immediate step in achieving this goal is to retain our highly qualified teachers and service personnel through financial and other incentives. Number two, he has charter schools. Charter schools in Monongalia County would prove to be an ineffective method for educating our students. Taxpayer subsidies to create schools that would exclude certain student populations is something that I cannot and will not support. Charter schools would drain valuable financial resources by recruiting students away from public schools. In addition to draining funds, charter schools in Monongalia County could not possibly compete with our high-performing schools. Because charter schools are run for-profit entities, teachers and administrators are paid less than their counterparts in public schools. As school districts scramble to hire highly qualified educators and administrators, it is evident that charter schools could not keep pace and thus hire underqualified applicants. Number three, he calls safety resource officer. For the last several years, our BOE has participated in the safety resource officer program. As a teacher, I have witnessed the positive impact that this program has had with our students and the community in which they serve. The officers help to establish meaningful relationships with students through education and safety programs. Number four, fiscal responsibility. As a member of the Board of Education, I will be a good steward of the taxpayers' money. Our taxpayers are among the most generous in the state by passing several levies for public good, including the school levy. I will ensure that the money is well spent and that these valuable financial resources reach students, teachers, and service personnel. For the first 2 years of my term, I will not support additional administrative positions to be added to the central office of the Board of Education. Number five, providing effective professional development. He says, I would support a cost-effective approach to professional development programs where professional and service personnel have input into what historically has worked or not worked. With this approach, the BOE would save money and have a workforce development program better attuned to employees' professional needs. For example, the schools of Monongalia County have done a good job of fostering acceptance of LGBTQ students and students of color. And he has one last sentence. However, we are not perfect, and continued education on acceptance for students and teachers can be maintained through professional development and workshops. Okay. And again, Mr. Myers had told us he could not come, but did not choose to provide a statement. And Ms. Moats was scheduled to be here, and I don't know what happened, but she is not here. Okay, we will now go on to the questions. Oh, okay. Question number 1. What do you feel are the highest priority challenges currently facing our school system? Again, candidates have not seen these in advance. We will ask Ms. Hagerty to ask this question first, and then Mr. Kelly, and then we'll reverse for each question as we go. So you have 2 minutes, Ms. Hagerty, and you have seen that there will be a flash that comes up with 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and time's up. Please go ahead.
Right now, I feel like the number one challenge is after 2 years of remote teaching and coming back to school and then going back out and teachers having to adjust, and what I've heard the word pivot quite many times. I think that the biggest challenge now, students have been away from school. And while I don't think that they have lost learning in that time, I do think there's a lot to learn at home. And I think the teachers did a fantastic job of providing remote instruction. What I feel like they've learned is what I feel like they have missed in that 2-year period is some socialization. So getting them back to what a normal school day looks like, what sitting down in the classroom looks like, what engaging with their peers looks like. Right now, I think that's probably the most immediate high priority challenge for the day-to-day school. I also hear a lot of teachers that are discouraged, frustrated, trying to keep it together because they've done so much to try to keep it together for the last couple of years. So I'd like to focus on getting them back to loving that job they used to love to get up and go to every morning. I remember when I used to love to go to school every morning. I hope that they can get that back. Those are the 2 things that I feel like are most pressing, immediate, get back to normal, whatever that looks like, so that we can be as effective as we can be every day.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kelly, let me go back to the,
Okay.
let's go back to the timer.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Ironically, Jen and I are both on the same page with that. The ones I feel sorry for too is the kids that just started school 2 years ago. So their first 2 years of school is probably totally different, although they probably didn't have an expectation of what it was going to be like. But we have to, get all of our children back focusing on how to get through the school day, and especially the younger ones. I think our high schoolers kind of adapted to all of this a little bit better than the younger grades. So, and again, like she said, the teachers, we've got a lot of help in the wings, so to speak, for anybody that is challenging that. But from what I've been around, it seems like the students are really adapting to it pretty well, especially in the musical programs. I was at a concert at Mountaineer Middle, the strings concert and everything. seemed like the kids were really having a blast and enjoying that. And then I was with the UHS concert band in Bridgeport today. And I was just kind of watching how they got along with each other. I think it's the normalcy starting to come back. And I think I agree that's our focus. We got to get them back into the vein of learning. And I think they're working very well with that.
All right, thank you. I should say to those of you watching on Facebook or YouTube, if you have questions, as we go through the questions that the league has prepared, you may submit them through either Facebook or YouTube, and we will see how many we can handle at the end of these structured questions. So, Mr. Kelly, you will start first. What are the greatest strengths of our school system?
Oh, absolutely, the greatest strengths are our employees. I mean, they're the ones that make it all happen, and we've asked so much of them throughout the last 18 months, and they've risen to the occasion, because it was very, extremely difficult trying to hit the number. I mean, it kept changing, different things that the state would send down. We could do this and we couldn't do that. They were in person and not in person. So they've had to, as Jen said, the pivot was just constantly, seemed like every other day was a pivot. So absolutely, that's the greatest strengths. But I think our greatest strengths is we have a lot of programs to put people where they need to be. If they have a question, they have a direction they want to go, we have people within the system that can help get them to that direction, be it a student, an employee, whomever. And I think we have such a great asset with WVU being right out our back door in Fairmont State. So we have a lot of guidance there that we can help students through those situations too.
All right, Ms. Hagerty, what are the greatest strengths?
We have a lot of great strengths. We have fantastic schools. We have a very high accountability for student learning. We have very high academic rigor. We have great teachers. We are fortunate to have access to technology that's up and coming, that's progressive. I know that we were one-to-one in Mon County schools well before other counties in West Virginia, which put us at a great advantage when we had to take on learning from home. Our kids already were, there goes my dog. Our kids were already used to the things that they were going to need to try to do at home, and fluent enough to learn the new things that they were given to use when they're at home. Probably more fluent than those of us our age. But we also have great community support. Our levy passes and really benefits our schools and our students in ways that with things that we couldn't do without it. So I think that there's a lot of great strengths in our school system.
All right, thank you. Go on to the next question. All right. Public school enrollment has been declining significantly since 2012. And this, I think, as I understand it, is more across the state than necessarily in this county. Some contend that this is partially due to dissatisfaction with the public school system. If you believe this to be possible, what's required to turn this trend around? And Ms. Hagerty, you are first.
I think that the reason some people in the last 2 years, I can say some people left public schools because they wanted to make sure that their kids were able to go to school outside of the house every day or did not want to follow the mask mandate. So I know that we've lost a lot of enrollment due to that preference for parents. Since 2012, that's a long time. And I would say that the main thing that we need to do is make sure that our parents trust the education system, that there is an open line of communication, that they feel like their kids are safe when they go to school, that they feel like they're supported when they have a concern or at least heard. I do believe it's possible to turn it around, but the number one reason people probably pull their students out of school is public perception. And unfortunately, the people who are the loudest and most vocal on social media, especially, and because it has access to everything, are the ones that are unhappy. The ones that are thrilled probably post pictures of their kids that they're proud of, but the ones that are unhappy post in public forums where everybody can see, and it creates a residual distaste, I suppose. So just making sure that the people who are unhappy have the opportunity to talk to somebody and at least be heard and come up with a solution for what makes them unhappy, so that they don't really have as much reason to pull their student or tell everybody else that they're going to pull their student, even though they may not. Social media is really a difficult thing for public education, I think.
All right. And we will reset the clock for Mr. Kelly. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, thankfully, this county, we're not suffering that. We've had growth in the last 3 years. We actually got growth money for that. But I think, well, I agree with Jen that the social media sometimes paints a picture of public education, and it just grows and festers, like a virus, if you will, sadly to say. But I think sometimes they get upset because they think they're not in control of anything. And that takes the communication side of it to a whole nother level, because we can't battle that perception that things aren't well. I mean, we wind up, this county school system is constantly getting awards and being recognized for being the best school system in the state, or best county school system in the state. And so, that perception out there, and social media just takes it and runs with it. And I think it's the same thing in the last 18 months. People want to be, they want their students in the building and being with their friends and so forth. And this last 18 months or so, that's been one of the biggest challenges too. But it's hard to pinpoint what they dislike. I mean, it's hard for us because I look at it and I think we have a great school system. And as far as all these things going on with the public, charter schools and so forth, I wish they would have allowed us to use the, if everything's so good, charter schools and all that, why didn't they give us that to deal with within the school system, those types of tools and so forth.
Okay. And we can go on to the next question. And then this would be for you to answer first, Mr. Kelly. How do you plan to recruit and retain public school teachers?
Well, thankfully, in this county, that's not a real big problem for us. When we advertise, we usually have a lot of candidates that apply for the jobs, and teachers never make enough. I mean, that's just the bottom line is I don't think they're paid nearly enough for what all they go through. But we try to give them a good salary here and good benefits and a pleasant surrounding to teach in, with all the new buildings and so forth, and trying to stay ahead of everything. We don't want to sit on the laurels. We want to keep on pushing and get better and better. And I think we've had several teachers that want to be in this school system when they apply for the jobs. And so thankfully, as of right now, and I give credit to the taxpayers, and because they give us what we need to go with. I mean, the excess levies 25% of our total budget. We go to Charleston for training. I'll talk to other board members. And they always say, well, that's Mon County. You guys got everything. And I said, well, we have it because our taxpayers, that's what they want for our children in this area. And I think that's a very important part, that they come to a school system and they see the growth and the potential, and the community benefits greatly by that too, because you come in the community and the schools are kind of schools we have, that's kind of people want to work here and live here and stay here. And I think that's good for the teachers to be teaching in this area. And we just got to continue to work with the state and within ours and get more money for the teachers and our personnel.
All right. And when the clock resets, Ms. Hagerty, how do you plan to recruit and retain public school teachers?
I also think that as far as recruiting teachers, we do recruit good teachers, but with WVU losing their education program, I'm sure that, or reducing their education program, I'm sure that's going to pose some issues and challenges along the way. Retaining teachers that are good is probably the biggest concern that I see ahead of us, especially after the challenge of the last couple of years. And at this point, I feel like the best thing that we can do is make sure that our teachers are supported, making sure that their frustrations are heard and addressed if we can, giving them the resources that they need, assisting them where there are challenges. And we have some challenges in our school system that directly impact the day-to-day classroom with mental health needs and students coming from, our teachers do a lot more than write a lesson plan and deliver it in the classroom. They take on the social and emotional needs of 20 to 150 kids every single day, and they take it home with them. So just making sure that they're supported in whatever ways that we can possibly support them to make sure that they don't give up on us.
All right. And again, for those of you who are watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can submit questions that we will deal with as time permits at the end. All right. For the next question. How can the Board of Education help remove administrative burdens from the teachers? And this time, Ms. Hagerty, you will go first.
I think that the administrative burdens that go to the teachers are any directive or initiative or plan that doesn't come directly from the school itself. I think we need to look more at what do the individual schools need to be successful in their individual schools. Yes, we're a successful system and we have a lot of great resources and programs in place, but what one school needs isn't necessarily what every school needs. So I would like to see teachers empowered to make those decisions for their schools because they're the ones that know their students. If they can be on the ground floor of, hey, this is what our school needs to be successful, whether it's more time to teach classes, whether it's over too many kids in the classroom. I think those are the burdens that sometimes we look at things as a one size fit all. And I really think we really need to look to the individual schools to make sure that they're getting what they need. And it's not what everybody needs. It's just, but it also needs to be school driven and ownership needs to be there. And if a teacher knows that their students need it, they're willing to do it. But if they're already doing something maybe effective or one more thing is put on their plate, that's where the overwhelmingness comes in. And then maybe it's not even done as effectively or at all that could be done if there was ownership from the teacher or the school.
All right. Mr. Kelly, and we'll reset the clock. There we go. How can the Board of Education help remove administrative burdens from the teachers?
Can I assume this question means from the administrative of the particular school or all the way up the ladder? So I'm gonna go with from the immediate school, principals, assistant principals, which some of those burdens are handed down from us, the Board of Education. But those, I think that all starts with conversations as to what are the burdens. Some of those burdens are put on us clear from the state level, but those conversations need to happen. And And I think we leave that door open all the time, but I kind of, if that's a question, is meaning that the teachers aren't getting past the principals with their burdens. But yeah, that's another one of those where it would just be the conversation. Let's find out what's going on. And a great place if that's happening is to come to one of our board meetings and, ask to discuss it in front of the full board, if that's what's happening. Again, this is kind of an open-ended question, so I don't know where we attack it from, but the teachers do need to know that they are supported. And I know all of the board now absolutely wants to support the teachers, because they're where the rubber meets the road. If there's issues going on, we need to know about them, and so we can correct them. And we can't correct them if we don't know, but if it's not trickling up, then we need to know that too. And I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but that would help relieve a lot of those burdens on the teachers.
All right, thank you. The next question. Okay, Mr. Kelly, you'll go first. How would you work to hire a more racially diverse workforce in the public schools?
Well, that's one of those where a lot of the hiring, it's kind of an odd situation as far as the Board of Education. We don't do any of the hiring. Our administrative position people do that. We actually have the burden of, if somebody's going to get fired, it has to come before us to be approved. So we don't get into we don't know any of the information on the hiring and so forth. So that's the diverse workforce. When you start hiring a partner, there's a lot of that's controlled by state code. And so, but as far as the board, we can push and see if we are in fact working towards that.
All right. Ms. Hagerty, the same question. How would you work to hire a more racially diverse workforce in the public schools?
Well, I agree with Mike that the Board of Ed doesn't do the individual hiring in the schools. You just do the approval of who has been hired. But I would say that the best way to get a bigger pool of people applying for jobs in my county is just to make sure that we are continuing to, and I think we do a pretty good job of this, continuing to showcase the great system that we are and what we have to offer to all students, making sure that our county is welcoming to all people and all students and all parents and all community members and all workforce. And that just may in itself encourage more people to apply and want to work in our county. And I think that kind of rolls into all of your other questions. If your teachers are happy, you can recruit a bigger pool of teachers. If your administrators are happy, you can recruit a bigger, if your cooks are happy, you get more people wanting to do it. Everybody in the school system has a role to play. And if they're happy at their jobs, they're going to tell other people, hey, this is a great place to work. So I think it's important that we continue to make sure that we're retaining people who are great. And in turn, I think that will trickle down to getting the word out to others that it's a good place to work.
All right. And those questions dealt with staffing, and now we have two questions dealing with students. Ms. Hagerty, you'll go first. How do you propose to support and protect LGBTQ, gender nonconforming students and students of color? LGBTQ students, gender nonconforming students and students of color.
I feel strongly that all students should be treated with the utmost respect, with the understanding of who they are and where they come from, and be supported for whatever their individual needs are. Every student comes to our school with a resume, even at 6 years old, of things that impact their life and who they are. And I feel like we need to appreciate and value and support and do whatever we need for every individual student. I don't feel like our students or our schools are this is just this class. It's this child, and every child needs to be looked at as that individual and treated as such.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kelly, how do you propose to support and protect LGBTQ students, gender nonconforming students, and students of color?
Absolutely, every student should be treated with respect. It's kind of ironic that we adults tend to stir things up more than kids tend to get along with each other pretty good. But yeah, every student should be equal and have the same opportunities, and we should protect them if there's something going on, which we do. I mean, if there's an issue going on and it comes to to our administrative side of it, we jump on that right away. We're not no way to support any of those picking on anybody, so to speak. But yeah, they're all equal in our eyes as far as I know I can speak for this board that we have now, but they're all equal in our eyes. We don't pick and choose from any of those.
All right, thank you. And again, for those of you who are watching, you may submit questions via Facebook or YouTube. Next question, number 8, Mr. Kelly, you'll go first. It is known that there is an economic and social disparity among the school population, and that disparity leads to achievement gaps in the quality of education. What can be done to assure that all students receive the same quality education?
I think we have to focus, and it comes back again to the teachers in the classroom. They know which one of the student or any of the students that need those extra, and we have extra programs that we can apply to this. Part of that too is when if you got education supported at home, and the children go home and parents help them with their homework and get them ready for the next. But we have several students that don't have that support at home, so we have to pick up the pace when they get into our buildings, and that's where the teachers come in greatly with that. And I can't think that we have any teacher that wouldn't that would turn away when if they looked and saw a student was having problems on that side of it. We try to help them as much economic. I mean, any student in our system now should not want for anything that relates to education, be it pencils or whatever. There's funds available, and the teachers know how to get to that what the student needs. And I think every employee that we have all the way across the board would be there for that student. And the achievement gap is just something that we have to continually stay focused on and help them if it's after school programming or whatever. But it's a tough, when society has a different view of education, it's really tough for our teachers to deal with that. And I feel for them because they see that every day. And so, but they're great on pointing out and getting those students help.
All right, thank you. And the same question, Ms. Hagerty, when we reset. It's known there's an economic and social disparity that leads to achievement gaps. What can be done to assure all students receive the same quality education?
I do actually believe that all of our students do receive a quality education, even this, maybe not the same quality education, but a quality education. Our schools, and I had mentioned before that I worked in 9 of them in my career in Mon County. And every single one of them met their population with excellence. There's great teachers, there's great principals. Our kids are very supported. Our academics are very rigorous, even for the low performing or we have resources in place at all of our schools. And what's different is the demographics, where they come from, what they're coming with, the tools that they have in their toolbox when they get to school, what they're dealing with at home before they get to school. Yes, those are a little bit different from school to school, but I don't feel like we're lacking even in the, let me just speak from Westwood Middle School. That's where I spent the last many 5, 6, 7 years of my career as both the academic coach and the assistant principal. It's a 56% low SES school. Our kids were challenged at their level every single day they showed up. Sometimes the needs outweigh what they're willing to give you that day, but I don't believe that the academic rigor is any different than the school that is 10% low SES. The teachers are still delivering phenomenal instruction every day and trying to meet the needs of just a wider range of needs.
All right, thank you. And now we go on to charter schools and homeschooling. Beginning August 2022, the Hope Scholarship will provide $4,600 a year for students being educated outside the public school system. How do you see that impacting the Mon County school system? And Ms. Hagerty, you'll go first.
I think it's very unfortunate. I don't think of all public school systems that Mon County Schools needs a charter school. Of course, parents can choose to homeschool their kids, but I feel like this is a political incentivizing and maybe a tactic against public schools that's unnecessary in our county. We have great school systems. I mean, we have a great school system, sorry. So the disadvantage I see is it's taking resources, valuable resources away from our schools. And, you know, yes, there are a lot of people who do a really good job homeschooling, but the accountability isn't there. And we also have a lot of people who just don't want to get their kid out of bed. They don't want to fight them every day. So they choose to homeschool, and they're certainly going to take advantage of this $4,600 stipend so that they can not go to, you know, they can homeschool their kid, and then they're going to send them back in a year and they're going to have lost a whole year of instruction. It's something that I saw as an assistant principal with many kids, not all kids, because a lot of parents do a good job homeschooling, but a lot of kids came back and they really didn't learn. They didn't have instruction every day when they were homeschooling. So I do feel like it's a disadvantage to the individual child and the school system as a collective.
All right, thank you. And we will reset the clock. Mr. Kelly, again, beginning in August, the Hope Scholarship will provide $4,600 a year for students being educated outside the school system, public school system. How do you see that impacting the Mon County school system?
Well, when you talk about taking public money out of it, yeah, that's a big sting on it. But I mean, you get to talking about charter schools and everything, the state, I mean, learning pods, micro schools, it makes your head spin sometimes. And I never did understand why they went down this route. There's a whole lot of issues that arrive from that. I mean, you could go on and on with this. I mean, a student can say, I'm going to go to a charter school, and the funds go with that student. And then 2 months into it, the student says, Mom, Dad, I don't want to go to this school anymore. Then we have to take them back into the public school system, but the money stays wherever they went, the charter school or whatever. I think all of these things probably have a root issue that was not getting addressed. And I really had hope a few years ago when they started the innovation zones. So my thing all along was, if all of this, the charter school, and if all of that is such a good deal, why did they not go further on the innovation zones and give us those tools to work with so that we could attack all of those problems and put up whatever the issues were? And then there could be a myriad of issues. It's like Jen said, it might have been they just didn't want to have to get up and send the kid to school, or it might be the older kid could stay home and watch the younger kid. So yeah, that's a myriad of opportunities, but I don't like when they're taking public funds and going elsewhere with it without accountability too. That's another issue in itself.
All right, thank you. And I think this leads to our last question from the league. If we can reset the clock, should charter and homeschool children be subject to the same educational testing requirements as those in traditional public schools? Please explain. Mr. Kelly, you'll go first.
We need a dashboard on all of our students in this county, and I absolutely think they should be the testing. Everybody talks about an experiment, but if you take 1 year out of a child's life, from first grade to 12th grade, in their eyes, that's their life. I mean, that's a huge deal. So I just try and experiment with 1 year or 2 years, and if it works or it doesn't work, that's detrimental in my opinion. But we need to know how they're doing. So you can't just say, well, charter schools are great, and we're not ever going to look back and see if they are, or the micropods, or all these other things that in the homeschooling. I think we need to know, and I agree with Jen that there's a lot of them that were homeschooled that did fine, and then there's some of them that didn't. So I think it's I think they need to be some sort of a dashboard speedometer, so to speak, of where these students are in their educational travel. But we need to keep an eye on it, and I'm not so sure we're headed down the right direction with that, with some of the laws out there.
All right, thank you. Ms. Hagerty, should charter and homeschool children be subject to the same educational testing requirements as those in traditional public schools? Please explain.
Yes, I think they should. I'm not one who believes that standardized testing should drive instruction, but I do believe that having a benchmarking tool to show academic growth for any student is important. How else do you have an accountability? I do believe that homeschool and charter schools, if they're going to say, we're doing great things for your kids, then we need to have some sort of data to drive that statement, and some sort of accountability and responsibility should be present.
All right, thank you. Now we will see, Sarah, are there any questions that are coming in from Facebook or YouTube?
Yes, we have a few questions. The first one is actually from me. And I posted it in the comments, but it was reported today that a high school in Morris County, New Jersey will be pushing back start time by 40 minutes to 8:20 a.m. in order to help their students get more sleep. We know lack of sleep can contribute to poor decision-making, heightened depression and anxiety, absenteeism, and worsening academic performance. Would you support moving the start time for our middle and high schools to a later time to improve the health of our students?
And Ms. Hagerty, we'll let you go first on this one.
I know scheduling is very driven by busing all of our students, but I would 100% support our students having a later start time, providing it's logistically possible.
Okay, Mr. Kelly? Mr. Kelly, did you have a comment on this?
Doesn't seem like he can hear you.
No, he's not muted. Might be frozen. Mr. Kelly, we're not getting you. Sarah, let's get in. Oh, there he is. Okay. No? Okay. Now you're muted, Mr. Kelly.
There we go. Is that better?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say I got a lot of feedback, and then the screen went kind of strange, and then it hung up, and then it was reconnecting. So.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear the question? Do you want me to read it?
No, I was going to say the question, I believe, was moving a start time back.
Yes.
Yeah, for middle and high school students
Yes.
To improve their health.
Yes. We've discussed that over the years, and we've had the experts come in. Some of them said it wouldn't change it. Some of them said it would. And it's one of those where if you're looking strictly at the student, then, that's one thing or another. But the problem with that is the bigger picture is how it would disrupt the family lives as far as, the getting the, students off to school in the mornings and picking them up in the evenings, and all of that kind of comes into play too. So it's not just a decision of what will work for the student, how does it affect the students' families and so forth. So there's a lot more on the plate. I mean, I personally, if we can make that work and it actually did help them, I wouldn't be opposed to moving it later. But like I said, we've had discussions of that off and on over the last probably 7 or 8 years, different times it would come up, and we'd have the experts come and talk about it on both sides, really. Some of them said it wouldn't change it, and the other one said it would. So that would be one of them that you would have to tackle that one if it was brought forward as a serious content to move the time. But there would be a lot more to look at than just the student itself.
Okay. And next question is from Catherine Gooding. This year, the state legislature considered several bills aimed at banning, quote, divisive concepts in public schools. What do you see as the role of the Board of Education in overseeing conversations in the classroom about race, gender, and other issues of diversity? And then there's a follow-up question: how much discretion should teachers have to talk about these issues?
And Mr. Kelly, we'll let you go first.
I kind of got part of that. Was it?
Oh, I can read it again.
No, it was kind of scrackly when it came, but I think it was about discussion of racial issues within the
race,
classroom.
gender, and other issues of diversity. Yeah. What do you see as the role of the Board of Education in overseeing conversations in the classroom? And how much discretion do teachers have to talk about them?
Well, I think the teachers do a pretty good job of that, having the conversations about it as far as that goes. I mean, we've not had, I'll just say I have not had anybody complain to me or anything about it being out of hand or anything like that. But we've not really waiting to jump on somebody for those types of conversations. I know that they were doing the trying to pass it as far as not allowing the teaching of it. But as far as the conversations about it, you kind of got to give them a little bit of lead, with teachers giving them a little bit of leadway. And that would be a difficult subject to tackle without some sort of an issue coming up. But yeah, I don't know that we're having any issues with not being allowed to discuss those things. I think the teachers know their students and how to have that conversation.
Thank you. Ms. Hagerty? You're muted.
Sorry. So our teachers, teach history based on a curriculum, and these concepts are a part of our history. So I feel like they should be taught as we have always taught it. And there are consequences of our history, and we need to understand what they are so we don't repeat them. And then also, when you think about teaching and learning, the best teachers and the best instruction happens based on what inspires your kids in the classroom. Students learn best when they ask questions, when they engage in conversations, when they are inquisitive, when you have dynamic discussions within the classroom. And teachers are really good at facilitating good conversations and not telling them what to think. And I know that there's this terrible public perception that a teacher is going to come in and tell you today, this is what you're going to think. And I've actually heard from community members that may disagree with the teachings of critical race theory or whatever, which we don't teach in public school, but based on the fact that they think that we're going to tell their kid how to think. And I don't think that there's any teacher out there who tells kids how to think. I think engage them in discussion, and they let them see every side of the story, and they let them understand where these questions might be coming from, and that's teaching and learning. I don't think we should water down our curriculum to save somebody's political agenda.
Thank you.
All right. That looks like it was all the questions from Facebook. And since we had to end our YouTube stream prematurely, we don't have any questions on that end. So we can move on.
All right. So I think now we're ready for closing statements. And Mr. Kelly, would you like to go first? You have 3 minutes for your closing statement.
First off, I want to thank you for putting this forum together. I'm really proud of our school system. There's been a lot of successes over the years that I've been on the school system, and Jen and Dan Barry were part of those successes. I mean, that's the bottom line. They were there all through it. But I think we do have a great school system, and I think we have great teachers and employees, and everybody seems to be working for the same goal. And I want to keep, the reason I wanted to go back on the board too is kind of keep that momentum going, and just continue to push our staff, push our students, and continue to be that. I mean, yeah, we get best in the state, but we want to be best in the country, and that the rigor is where that all comes from. And I think it's the system has a lot to offer, and it's a great school system.
All right, thank you.
I was going to say, I did want to add that, my motto is every answer should create a question. And that's the perpetual, just because we say this is the way it is, and kind of back to the teachers talking to the students, it's great when you get them, like Jensen, you get them talking and they have questions, and then they get an answer to that question, they ask another question. That's when it gets going good. That's what you like to see from students. I'm done now.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. Ms. Hagerty, your closing statement?
I also want to thank you for putting this together. I'm just really excited to potentially have the opportunity to work with the school system again. I love my current job, but I do miss being involved in education. So my kids are grown up. I don't have any cross to bear or bone to pick. I just want to be a part of the solution. I want to be a part of the progress. I want to help Mon County schools continue to move forward and grow and prosper.
All right. Thank you both. Again, for those listening on Facebook, Mr. Barry had told us he would not be here, as did Mr. Myers, and I don't know what happened with Ms. Moats. But thank you for participating. And again, remind everyone that voting will be coming up soon. Don't forget, for more information, the League's website is vote411.org. And if you want to go to tonight's recording, you can go to lwvmorgantown.org/YouTube and listen to the questions and answers again. Again, to register to vote, the deadline is April 19th. Election day is May 10th. Early voting is April 27th to May 7th from 9 to 5 every day. Well, election day, it's 6:30 to 7:30. 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Early voting is at Mason-Dixon Park, on Buckeye Road in Core, the VFW post on Holland Avenue in Westover, Mountaineer Mall, Old Goodwill. There'll be a great big sign on the wall that on the entrance that you'll see, and the former Erst Dodge dealership at 2000 Mid-Atlantic Drive in Morgantown. It does not matter where your precinct is. Anyone can go to early vote at any of these locations. And again, this is the final election. We will be voting for 3 people, up to 3 people, either 2 in Central and 1 in Western, or 2 in Western and 1 in Central. It does not matter where you live. The districts depend on where the candidate lives, not the voter. And I think with that, we are ready to end our evening unless there's another slide.
That's it.
That's it? All right, thank you both.
Thank you.
Apologize for
Thank you for your
Technology.
patience.
You're welcome.